there, Geek Collective, and welcome to Geeks Plus Comics, more than just your average geeks. And I am back with another episode of Let's Talk Comics. You've been getting quite a few of these recently. We've had quite a few amazing guests, and today's guest is no different. I have the pleasure of sitting down with Sean Wood, writer and creator of a couple of comics now through Kickstarter that we'll be talking about today. The first one being The Fog Within, a comic that you've seen here on the channel. I'll put the review I did for it up in the corner. Please go and check out that review of it if you've not seen it already. It was a pleasure. But of course, in setting up to reach out to this man, by the time Fog Within was finishing on Kickstarter, he was already into his next project and had another project on Kickstarter, which is live now as you're watching this video. And we're going to get to go into that as well, Recon and the little one. But Sean, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I greatly appreciate you coming on the show and chatting with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Like I said before, I love the review, so I was glad to come on and join you.
No, it was a pleasure. It was an absolute pleasure to reach out. As I say, like I've said it plenty of times on the show, like when you go on Kickstarter, it can really be a mixed bag of the comics that you find on there. Some of them can be amazing and some of them are just awful.
Yeah.
So I was really taken with the concept with The Fog Within, and I was really pleasantly surprised that it lived up to the hype that I saw
Nice.
and the build up to it and stuff, and it was a pleasure to check it out. And we're going to delve into that, and we're going to delve into, of course, Recon as well. Recon and the little one, which is your current one shot that's on Kickstarter right now, which
Yeah.
has similarities to The Fog Within, but very different in a lot of ways. It's keeps that kind of post-apocalyptic world feel, which I don't know if that was
Yeah.
intentional or not, but before we dive into that though, this is your first time on the show, so would you be up for telling our viewers just a little bit about yourself, who you are, how you got into comics, and what led you to where you are now?
Yeah. So I've always been a reader. I kind of grew up into it. My dad, he's actually been collecting since the 60s.
Oh, nice.
So I was kind of born with comics in my hand saying, read these, don't read other things. And it was a great childhood for that. I would go into all of his old comics, as a teenager or whatever, and just anything you could possibly think of that was a great book back then. And just read it as I wanted to, and you didn't have to go to the comic book shop and pay hundreds of dollars for the Phoenix Saga or whatever. I had it on hand at any point. I just had to take hours on end to go through the bins because it's not a quick process.
No.
Uh, but so I grew up like that. I've always read comics as an adult. I've been collecting for myself for the last 12 to 15 years or so. Every Wednesday, going to the LCS. And one day I was reading The Walking Dead Deluxe, and I was getting it because it was in color now. Because I
Mm.
read it when it was in black and white, but I was interested in seeing it in color, so I started collecting that. And I didn't realize, but at the back there he had his outline for each book, and it was just a simple one line per page what he wanted to accomplish. And I was like, oh crap, it's that easy to start at least. So I
Yeah.
was like, why not? It's not gonna cost me anything to just to try if I can figure out a script. And I've been reading so many, I've got to have some kind of knowledge from all of that reading. So try to go from there. And I actually went to Scott Snyder's writing class
Oh,
through
nice.
his best class. And actually, for the last year, I finished now, but for the last year, I've been meeting with him once a month, Scott Snyder himself, and going over my scripts and getting ideas and what I should change to make things make more sense and convey to the reader and have more shock and awe type of page turns and everything. And it's been a delight to meet with Scott Snyder because I mean, in my opinion, he's the best of the best that there
Yeah, I was
is.
going to say, yeah,
Especially,
that's a hell of an editor to start with, Scott
yeah,
Snyder looking over your work.
yeah, exactly.
That's like one
And
of
that
the
was before
best in
I
the
even.
business today. It's like,
Oh yeah, and that was like in the middle of when he was doing Absolute stuff, so Absolute
oh,
Batman and
nice.
being a part of that. And that was cool to see. So yeah, so I had him sort of as my editor. It was like a 5 minute session once a month, and I got to see him in person a couple times, and it was cool. He pointed out to my son that his dad's a good writer, and he knew like from the crowd. He pointed me out saying to my son, saying that, and that was a huge deal.
I was going to say
So yeah,
that must have
that.
been a pretty big moment. Like, it's not even
Oh
just like
yeah.
he's saying to your son, "Oh yeah, by the way, your dad's a good writer." No, he's pointing at you in the middle of a crowd, like recognizing you. Like, no, yeah, your dad there, he's an amazing writer. Like that must have been mind blowing.
Oh yeah, yeah. My son lit up because he knows who Scott Snyder is too. Because of course I've told him, but he's starting to read. He's 10 now, so he's starting to read those kind of books,
Oh yes,
and that kind of blew his mind. And yeah, so that was a great day, and that was at a local con. He didn't know I was going to be there. I didn't tell him like in advance, like with our meeting or anything. And he wanted to just like shoot the breeze too. He's talking about his Yankees and how they're doing and how where was I going to be later in the day to hang out. It's like, okay, I'm not really going to hang out with Scott Snyder, but it's cool that he's asking me, that kind of thing. It didn't happen, but
I was
I
going to
was okay
say is
with
like
it.
even
It's
for
still
me
fun.
ask though, and I'm like, dude, I will drop anything in the world right now to
Yeah,
go hang out with Scott
exactly.
Snyder.
Oh yeah, exactly. So that's been really cool. I'm still in his class, but I'm not meeting with him once a month anymore because my year is up. But yeah, since I started with that, I had his opinion on the first script of The Fog Within. Hey, is this any good? And I've gone through now three of the issues on Kickstarter so far, and I've got number four, which is going to be the arc finale coming up in June. So I'm going to
Nice.
continue on, and people are liking it. I'm building my audience, and each one's getting better and better as the story, and better, and more people are picking it up. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you can see, like, I'm assuming just through time passing and through the class as well, having gone through the writing class and having someone like Scott Snyder looking over it, like, you can see the progression of your writing as well. You know, starting off with
Oh
The
yeah,
Fog Within #1, like, it's a good comic. It's a great start to it, but it's like it does have that feeling of like, okay, this is definitely a first comic, and then
yeah,
literally by the time you get to issue 2, it's like, oh, this is tightened up. This has gotten so nice, and like it just starts to like you can see those classes paying off, those things paying off, this experience that you're getting paying off, which is amazing, you know.
appreciate it.
And I want to clarify that like it gets better and better. Not saying the first issue is like awful at anything. It absolutely isn't. The
Yeah.
first issue is a great read as well. The whole story has been so far. I was a big fan of The Fog Within. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But that's really interesting to see like to get to do your first like major story like that and getting it backed on Kickstarter, and it's like, and then you've got Scott Snyder looking over it, and I'm like, that's a
Mhm.
hell of a starting point that I don't think many people could say like that was their beginning in comic books.
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, so with the first one, I mean, it was my first anything writing, so I probably had like 30 iterations of the script by the time that I finished it, and now issue two was that much easier. Issue three, and so forth. And now, like Recon, I wrote in a week.
Oh
I had
wow.
the idea and I just kept on going. So like it's been easier and easier the more that I do these full scripts. And now I'm doing anthologies and I'm writing those pretty fairly quickly, at least for the first pass. Before the dialogue pass and everything. But
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
it's definitely got a lot easier. Yeah.
That's pretty phenomenal. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
So to delve into the actual comics themselves, then, so Fog Within is the first one. So let's start with that because I want to end with Recon because that's the one that we're talking about, the Kickstarter that's going live now. So we'll leave that as the final thought. I want that to be what people go away with. So we'll start with the Fog Within. This was your first writing anything, you said. Where did
Yep.
the idea for this come from? What spurred the ideas for putting this down? Because some of the stuff you've talked about, like, you read like the comics that your dad had, stuff like, the Phoenix Saga and all this stuff, and that superhero element, and, your inspiration for how a comic laid out through The Walking Dead and a dystopian future. And I'm like, okay, you can see some of the stuff that was influential there. But
Mhm.
what brought the idea together for The Fog Within?
Yeah, so when I first had the idea, like, okay, I can do an outline, then I was actually thinking about an idea. And I'm a runner. As you can see behind me, I've got the medals, like marathons and
That's what
half
they were. I was going to
marathons and
ask you
stuff.
after the stream what the
Yeah,
medals were for, and I'm like, you've got all these medals just hanging up. Like, dang.
yeah, yeah. It's not like winning anything, but it's races that I've
Like, shh,
accomplished.
this is on the
So
internet. You don't say this. Like, yes, these are all my running medals I've got right behind me
and
here.
that's all gold. Yes, that's all gold. But yeah, so I'm a runner. I was definitely more of a runner, more so before I started riding all the time. But I was training for a marathon, and it just happened to be a foggy day, and I just had this random thought that you'll have, a million different thoughts going through your head, going for longer mileage, and I just thought, what if I ended up somewhere else on this other side of the fog? Where would it be? And then this
Hmm.
entire world came from that random thought. And I just couldn't stop thinking about it and how different, at least I think, it's a very different idea going through a fog portal and ending up 26 years in the future. What would that look like? And I built this whole world around that thought. So
I,
yeah,
I love that stories can come from just something so simple, like that one little thought. Like
yeah,
that always makes me
right,
think of like you always hear them talking about like J.R.R. Tolkien writing Lord of the Rings, like in The Hobbit, and it all spurred from him writing down on a napkin one day. There once was a hobbit who lived in a hole, and
that's crazy.
that
Yeah,
was where it all spurred from. I love the fact that stuff can have just that basic moment to it, and just that moment of running through the fog and one thought, what if I was somewhere else at the other side of it, and
yep,
it spurs
that
everything
fleeting thought.
on. That's amazing. I
Yep,
love that. I absolutely love it.
yep. Thank you.
And so the fog within occurred, and where did you feel like the ideas for the story were going to go with this? Like, because obviously you've got the influence of it's a kind of post-apocalyptic esque world, kind of
Yep.
dystopian esque world. Um, I do have to ask, and one thing I wanted to ask about it is like, especially as it starts to go into issue 2, it starts to talk a lot more
Mhm.
about the fact of an episode of a pandemic that was affecting the world. And obviously, Hunter, our main character, ends up not just on the other side of this fog, but launched into the future. So he misses this whole part of it. And
Yep.
he's
Oh yeah.
comes through and he's meant to be, the savior. It's a classic savior story. He's meant to be the one that comes and saves everybody and has no clue what he's doing. Um,
Right.
the pandemic that happened to the world, was that influenced by real world at all? Because obviously we're only like 5 years removed from the world shutting down because of a
Right.
pandemic. And I'm like, was that
Yeah.
an influence in that, or was that just you felt that was the best way for the story? You're like, or was it writing what you know?
I'd say a little bit of both. I would say definitely some influence from that. Just like everybody else, everybody in that time frame found new hobbies and found ways to cope through that crazy time. And for me, it was the pandemic, of course, but I was also at work the entire time. I was an
Mm,
essential personnel, so I never stopped working. And with that, I also was going through a remodel at work. And it was just mass chaos on different fronts. There were shortages for, products that we order all the time. I had to do crazy things to order them. So that kind of like broke my mind. So it was like three different ways breaking my mind, and this was my way to cope was writing. Stay in this fantasy world while reality is just completely nuts. So yeah, I would say there was some loose stuff with the pandemic with that infection, but also I felt I found ways to make it very interesting of how the infection hurts and involves certain characters. I don't want to go too far, but
mm,
you might know what I'm talking about. But it involves certain characters in a very specific way, um, of how to sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way, I guess. Um, so yeah, I thought it was an interesting thing to add to it and keep things in reality. So I did the same thing with Recon, write what you know and write from fears, and that brings out the best stories typically.
absolutely. That was just a little side question I had to ask because like I was reading this and I'm like, it's like, and a pandemic took the world, and I'm like, oh, that's that definitely feels like
Right.
that feels like some influence there from the real world, of course. Which, like you said, it was a world changing thing, and it affected all of us, and we all started doing different things as a result. I mean, that's why I'm doing this. This all spurred off from doing that. Was doing
Yeah.
this sort of
Yeah.
stuff, so I absolutely get that. Something I should have started with as the first question, and I just started diving into questions and didn't even think because I was excited to talk to you. For anyone
Yep.
who's watching that's not checked out The Fog Within yet, that's not
Yep.
read the comic yet, that's not got into it, give us your elevator pitch for it. Because this is also pitching for, like you said, you've got the story finale, the arc finale coming up in the summer.
Yep.
So here's your chance, people, to go and check out the Fog Within. What is it actually all about?
Yeah. So I actually did my first con on Saturday, so I made the pitch a lot quicker
Oh,
because people are
nice.
passing by. The easiest way to catch people I think I've seen is Mad Max type of universe with some powers. That's that quick blurb to get people, huh, I like that idea. Go on, tell me more. So the idea is there's a catastrophic event in the present, and Hunter is in this town, and a couple days after the event happens, there's chaos. He's running. He runs into some fog, like I said, my origin story is, and he ends up 26 years in the future when he passes through this fog. Doesn't know how he got there. Doesn't know why he's there. There's rebels there that know of him, and he is coming. There is a prophecy involved, of course. That's always fun.
Mm-hmm.
And the people in power, Schism, they have walled up this city where this catastrophic event has happened. An infection is caused from this event, and they're trying to keep everyone in the city because they don't know what to do with them. And these rebels are basically trying to get out of the city, and they think that Hunter is going to be the one that gets them out. And he eventually learns that this fog comes from within, hence the name, the Fog Within. And we go from there. Yeah.
Absolutely. And having read issue 3 again, no spoilers for what happens in it, but like we start to get a lot more details of what's actually going on in the bigger picture of stuff. And it
Oh
was a
yeah.
really interesting kind of dive into that. But yeah, honestly, I remember seeing this on social media and it just absolutely caught my attention. It was one of those stories, like just something about it. I was like, that sounds like a really cool concept. And I do have to admit, the cover art for issue 3 with him in the air with the fog coming out of him,
Oh yeah.
just absolutely grabbed me as well. Like, that's a cool front cover, and I'm like, okay, I might need to go check this out. That's how you sell a book. Cool front covers. It grabs attentions on shelves and on
Yeah.
social media. It really does.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, it's definitely a really interesting concept for it, and I love it. I'm a sucker for a good superhero story, especially a good alternative superhero story. I always say that when it comes to the big two, like with Marvel and DC, like a lot of the stuff you get used to there. So I'm always excited when you see something that's in the indies that's a little different. And again, this is a kind of very superhero take, but it's not a superhero at the same time.
Right.
But it's got that feel to it, and it's like, yeah, it was definitely an absolutely fun read. From my personal experience, it was an enjoyable read to get into. Um,
Thank you.
you said it's the end of the story arc coming out this summer.
Yep.
Just the story arc. There's going to be more Fog Within after it.
Yeah, so the idea is as long as I can keep on funding, which it seems like it's doing well, each book gets better and better, then I actually have it outlined for 12 issues. So it'd be a 12 issue miniseries. I
Nice.
know that's a huge feat to do for an indie, but I feel like I can get there. And each arc will be 4 issues. So this is the big arc finale coming up, and then I'll do the trade probably in August or so for this arc, and then next year I'll be doing probably 2 of the issues, and then also be doing Recon with the One Shot Universe in between the issues, basically. So keeping both of these going for the next few years.
Absolutely. That's really cool. Like I'm excited
Yeah.
to see where this world goes and to see what you do with that, and to take it through 12 issues. Like, that's kudos for even attempting it. Because like you said, that's a
Yeah.
big thing, especially for an indie comic, and especially one that is backed through Kickstarter. And to do
Yeah.
it at a pretty high quality as well for 12 issues is a hard thing to do. But you seem to be getting more and more backers and more people interested, which is amazing.
Yep. Yep. Thank you.
But Along with the Fog Within, though, like you've already mentioned, that you do have a current Kickstarter that's live at the moment. Which, guys, I'll put the link for that down below. Go check it out on Kickstarter right now. I believe it's pretty close to its funding goal at the time of this recording.
Yeah.
It was you're fairly on pace to meet your funding goal, which is exciting stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's crazy to see. The first day, I think I did over $2,000, which is nuts.
Yeah,
Because I haven't been that fast. Like each time it's gotten better and better, and I hope it gets like that every time. But you don't know what to expect when you hit that live button. Anything can happen.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
But I think
it.
we're at like 80% right now, something like that. We've only been a week. I think it's actually 8 days now. So I've got plenty of time, and I'd love to get to some stretch goals, of course. The higher we go on that, I might even be at the 5,000. I have to be discovered, but I'm leaning towards adding 4 more pages to this one shot if we can get to that 5,000. So we'll see how things go.
Yeah, that'd be exciting. I'm just pulling it up right now. So right now we are sitting, as of this recording, is at $2,408 of a $3,000 pledge, which
Yep.
is nuts. When there's like 3 weeks, there's like 22 days to go on the campaign, and to be that
Yep.
close to funding is insane. That's phenomenal. So
Oh yeah.
kudos and congratulations on that, already reaching that. Hey there, Geek Collective. Did you know that Geeks Plus is also on Patreon? For as little as just $2 a month, you can also support us over on Patreon and get early access to all of our YouTube videos from Geeks Plus Comics, Geeks Plus Tabletop, and Geeks Plus Gaming, as well as a whole bunch of exclusive content specifically for our supporters over on Patreon, and early access to all the behind the scenes and ongoings with the company. So if you would like to check out all of that stuff and help support what we do here at Geeks Plus, we would greatly appreciate heading over to patreon.com/geeksplusmedia and supporting us over there. But that's all from me from now. You all have a good day, and let's get back into your video. But tell us a little bit about this one, Recon and the Little One, and this is a one-shot as well. This isn't going to be a series, this is a one-shot story.
Yep. Yeah, so it's gonna be a one-shot universe is the kind of the idea. So the quick pitch is robots versus zombies. Who doesn't love robots and who doesn't love zombies? That's just fun. But the story actually came from the idea, like I said before, fears always drive the best stories, and actually to go back, the way this story even happened, I was in the third campaign of the Fog Within last September or so, and another creator just said, "Hey, you need to do another story, right? You can't just do the Fog Within." I was like, "Okay, but I've never really thought about another idea." So that actually egged me on to think of a new story. And this story came from my fear of my daughter growing up in this crazy world. She's 4, and how as a father I want to protect her. And it turned into robots. Well, Samurai Jack like action pace with a Wally bot tasked with saving the last girl on Earth against zombies. So that's the full pitch. The
That is
robots
a
definitely got
combination of things I never thought in my life I would hear.
yeah,
Zombies, Samurai Jack, and Wally.
and Wally. He's got
That
like
is,
the Wally type personality. So the
you know
reason
what?
why
I
I say
might be.
Samurai
I'm
Jack,
gonna say I might be a weird guy, but like that pitch right there. If you said that when I was walking by a con table, that would get me to stop because I'd be like, "What the hell?"
yeah,
That is absolutely perfect.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I didn't even think about Samurai Jack until I saw the way he was doing the paneling. Because as a writer, you'll have the idea of what you think the page is gonna look like,
Yeah,
and as soon as he started doing the paneling, I was like, that is some real like Samurai Jack, like in your face, like quick action shots back and forth. And I went back and watched the show too. I was like, maybe I'm just imagining this. Maybe it is just like from my head from when it first came out. Maybe it's not right, but I went back and watched the whole show, and I was like, yeah, that's definitely Samurai Jack with a robot. Um, but the Wally bot is definitely the personality of the bot.
that's amazing.
So as the father, I'm the protector, but my son, he's 10, and it's definitely his quirky type attitude. The awkwardness of a 10-year-old and the trying to be funny, like tapping on the shoulder, and you're on the other side type of thing. It's that kind of mentality and attitude with the girl. And the girl is definitely my daughter. It's actually spot on. It is her, just a few years older, because it wouldn't make sense for a 4-year-old for the story. But the bunny though is really the third main character, the stuffed bunny that she has, and that is my daughter's stuffed bunny.
Oh,
So I
nice.
literally sent the artist. I said, "Here's a picture of my daughter's bunny. It has to be in there because it's with her at all times." So, and it adds another drama, a part of drama to the book. There's actually one page on the Kickstarter that really showcases that. She drops the bunny in a horde of zombies, and she risks everything to save the bunny because that's all she has left of her family, basically. And you see her in the fetal position, and there's a horde of zombies around her, and it just hits your heart as a
Mm,
father, especially seeing that and not knowing if she's going to be okay or not.
yeah,
Uh, is a huge page, but yeah. So my daughter being saved by a quirky robot against zombies.
that is a really cool concept for it. Like, I'm
Yeah,
really
thank
excited
you.
for it. And it looks absolutely stunning as well. You've got a phenomenal artist on this. On the Kickstarter page, I think you've got a good 4 or 5 pages up on there.
Yes,
From the
there's
story.
six. So the first
6.
5 pages with lettering, and it actually kind of has like a little short story too, with a beginning and an end, just to give people an idea. And then that last page where she's in the fetal position with the horde around her
Yeah.
without lettering. I just had to showcase that because that is probably one of my favorite pages. It looks insane. So
That speaking as well as a dad who's got kids that run about those same ages, like that's like a fear
yeah,
inside. Like, that's a fear of seeing something like that. Like, just your kid in that much danger and not being able to do anything about it. Like, absolute fear
yeah,
unlocked there. It's like
oh
100%.
yeah,
But yeah, you've done an amazing job on this.
thank
Sorry,
you.
my ADHD brain's going. I've got two different questions with two different paths in my head here. So, so since we're talking about the art, how did you get connected with your artists? And we can talk especially about Recon, but also as well with like Fog Within and Dion's work on
Yeah.
there. And how did you get connected with the artists? Because obviously you started writing, you're doing the writing class with Scott Snyder, but taking it from script to page and actually turning it into a comic's a whole process in itself.
Oh yeah, for sure. So with the first one, with the Fog Within, um, I really didn't have any contacts in the indie world. I'm just coming into this, not really knowing anything on the art side, anyways. So I went to the Facebook groups that everybody goes to, and looking on Reddit and looking on Portfolio Day type things on Twitter, and I really scoured it for like a month straight, just like all day, every day, pretty much looking, seeing what I liked and what I thought would bring the best for price wise and for quality wise of my first book because I didn't want to go with the cheapest. Oh, sweet, I can get this and have a book, but it's not the quality that I would expect.
Hmm.
To pick up myself. If I'm not willing to pick it up on the stands, why would anybody else?
Yeah,
And not
absolutely.
to knock on other artists or anything, but I fell in love with David's stuff, and we got to talking and everything, and yeah, he loved the idea that it was different, and it's not something that he's really done so far. That kind of sci-fi dystopian
Hmm.
with powers. And yeah, so he was on board, and we've been together since. And right now he's in the middle of doing number four, and it's awesome to see all the pages. It's always a delight. At first, he was just a penciler because he was traditionally penciling everything, and he wasn't inking. Like you noted in the review, that I have a couple inkers on there because I went through some stages of I was nitpicking certain things, and they happily bowed out and said, we understand where you're coming from, but we just can't do what you're expecting. So I went with the next anchor, and I just
Hmm.
continued on until I was able to figure it out. And I tried to make the inking still look, you know, unison with everything that was in the book, and
Yeah.
I thought it turned out well. And then after that, David said, "Hey, I'm trying my hand at inking. I want to ink the book too." And I said, "I'm all for it. That makes my job easier. I love your art. Let's see where it takes us." And yeah, and he's been inking it since. So he's inked 2 through 4, and it's amazing.
Yeah, and
And
he's done a
then
phenomenal job with it as well. Like
yeah,
since he took over the
oh yeah,
inking, it's like you don't notice
it's a
any
whole nother
drop
level.
in quality for a guy who's like it was his first time inking really, and like putting his inking out there. He's done an amazing job.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you. So he has done like some inking, but not really, not on like a every page type of
mhm.
setting, like more practice type stuff. And so yeah, and then my colorist, he's been the same colorist since the beginning. I just loved his vibrant colors, and how it's different than most comics that I've seen on the indie scene, vibrant wise. And I really thought that the colors needed to pop for this type of story, like with the swarm soldiers and how they have like a sentinel like quality to
Yeah,
them, like the colors and everything. And I just really needed that to pop, and it's worked out really well. And my letterer, and he really adds to the level too, because letterers, you want them to typically, you don't want them to stand out, because if it stands out, typically it's in a bad way. You want it to be smooth and not noticed, and that's how you know you have a good letterer. But with
hmm,
my letterer, he does that, but also he adds to the art with his like sound effects and everything. It just makes things pop that much more. And that's really what he's known for, is more the Sonic type stuff. And he does some crazy stuff. And he's also the letterer for Recon and the Little One as well.
oh nice,
I
yeah,
brought him on for everything I've done, so it just made complete sense. So with the Fog Within, I found everybody on Facebook, and then I started, getting to be a part of different scenes for the indie scene, like in Facebook and different cons. I was just showcasing. I was basically going from table to table for indie comic writers and artists, saying, "What's your book? What's your pitch? I want to buy it. And hey, I also have my thing. What do you think? You think it's something good enough for Kickstarter? And what's your experience?" And I've built a whole rapport, I guess, with all these guys, and now I'm in different groups online, and we all collaborate with each other and all help each other out, and it's just been an awesome thing to see. And that's how I found my recon team, is by backing other Kickstarters. I've kind of become obsessed since I've had my own. I've backed way too many in a good way since, and I wouldn't have any other way though, because it's cool to see these other guys' creations and how they're doing things. But one of the books that I backed was a book called Hospice by Travis Gibb and Dave. He actually was the artist for that, and I've seen so many things since then of his stuff. And what I needed for Recon, the main thing that I needed for the artist was someone to bring emotion to a robot.
hmm,
It's kind of hard to do a lot of times with something that's metal and is typically emotionless. So I really thought his art style would be perfect for it, and he has brought a lot of emotion to it, because it's all about showcasing the art to tell the story and the dialogue. But there's more art on this side of the book than the dialogue, because there's just two characters
yeah.
and zombies, typically talking. So he really brought a whole nother level to it, and what I want to bring in with the new series was, do everything opposite that I did with the Fog Within. So Fog Within has traditional art, traditional inks and everything, and everything about Recon is digital. And it's all one guy. He does the colors, and he does the penciling and the inking and everything. Same thing with the idea of the story. So there's no flashbacks in Recon, and there's not a whole lot of backstory to Recon. It's more of the first page explains how we got to this universe, and then you just go, and it's point A to B, and it's a lot of fun. And whereas the Fog Within is a longer series as well. So I kind of try to do everything opposite, just to showcase as a writer what I can do for myself and to others. So
That's absolutely awesome. I love the challenging yourself with doing something different. Can I do something in a different way with that? And
yeah,
because it'd be very easy for like I kind of mentioned, it's that still dystopian future, so it'd be very easy for you just to fall into the same sort of tropes that you
right.
use in Fog Within to do the same here. But that's really exciting that you're doing something different with it, and you manage to take this book that could be about, you know, it's like it's in the post-apocalyptic world, it's in a zombie apocalypse, it's in all this world, and but that's not the focus. The
No.
focus is Recon and the little one. The focus is the characters. The focus is what they are going through now. In the middle of
Yep.
this world, it's like it doesn't matter how we got here. It doesn't matter how the
Yep.
world went to crap. It doesn't matter how everyone like got killed off. It's like what matters is what's happening to these characters now. And that's amazing to do. I think that's a brilliant idea to do with it.
Thank you.
And it's really cool to hear the process as well of getting your different like creative teams involved in it and getting involved for the Fog Within and for Recon. And it's really cool to hear that world of like creators opening up for you. And I completely get that, backing more Kickstarters than you probably should be backing. I did the same at the end of 2024. I went on a bit of a Kickstarter backing spree and realised I need to stop because I don't have money to keep backing Kickstarters because I've backed too many at this point. It's like, brother, my wife wasn't really accepting that this stuff is just so cool as an excuse for how much I was backing. But I absolutely get it. There's some amazing stuff out there, and I think your stuff is definitely up there with it. I think it really is. Second with Recon and the little one, something I wanted to ask as well, because this is a one shot that's coming on to Kickstarter, but you said it's a one shot like anthology. It's a one shot that's part of a more one shots that are to come. Is it going to be a collection that's coming, an anthology that's coming? Is it? Can you tell us anything about that? I know obviously Recon's probably the very start of this, but can you give us a hint of what's to come? Like, is it one of those things that's all set in the same world, or is it all different stories and genres, or is it like what's the concept for the anthology?
Yeah, so this is a 24-page one shot at the moment. Like I said, it might turn into 28 pages depending on where we get. But this is a standalone. You don't have to know anything else. This tells you how sort of how they got there, and in the first page, just explaining, and then, like I said, point A to point B. But it's also going to be hopefully 3 one shots if I continue to fund the way I think it will be. It'll be different gears of the same universe and some of the same characters. So Recon and the little one, they'll both be in these 3 one shots. But a couple years from now will be the next one. And then I'll also do a one shot of the actual war of how everything started. So the idea, to backtrack a little bit, the idea that happened before this book was food is scarce, and scientists bioengineered the food a little too far for what was left, and this infection became like a vine-like, earth-like infection, and basically Mother Nature was coming after us humans, and trying to bring us back to Earth, saying, "You mess with my food, you mess with what I gave you, you're gonna be Earth now." And so the zombies aren't trying to eat the people; they're trying to bring everyone to this infection and become back to plants, basically. And there's not enough humans at one point for them to fight the zombies themselves anymore. So they build robots and to fight this war in their place. So that's where the robots come into play. At one point, the humans are completely died off, or so we think. And so the robots that were built to protect humans, they have no purpose anymore. So they are wasting away in this first page, and then he hears a scream that there's a human, and then he jumps into action and has a purpose again, and that's where the story starts. So the third one shot will show that war of how it started and how the infection started and everything. And then the idea is the fourth one, the end of all the one shots, it'll actually be a culmination of all those 3 one shots as a finale. So it'll be 3 one shots and a fourth finale to bring everything together. And I've seen other like indies and other books do the same kind of thing. It's just a lot of fun that you have all these standalones and you see all these characters come together, and then it's just this like holy crap moment for an entire book, and it's just a cool idea. So that's what I'm going for.
Nice. That sounds like a really cool concept for it, a really cool idea. I can't wait to see how the rest of the world looks in
Yeah,
comparison to it
thank
and
you.
how it all comes together. And I love it. I love the idea of it. It sounds like a really cool kind of dystopian story. Um, which, guys, if we have mentioned it, link is down below for it. Go check out the Kickstarter or Recon and the little one right now. Help Sean and his team reach their goal, their funding goal, to get that out there, and let's start pushing towards those extras that are going to be coming with it. Some of which are mentioned on the page, and like you said, one at the 5,000, I believe it is the stretch goal is still an unknown. So goodness knows what that'll be. And you got some really cool stuff as well on there. Like I seen, like what was it, the little statue and stuff of Recon and all this. Do you want to tell our people a little bit about that? Some of the stuff that's available for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So I have two different things that I could show actually. So the standee is the less expensive version. It's from the third cover, and it's 6 inches tall. It's pretty big for a standee. I mean, it's compared to my face. I mean, it's the same size pretty much. It's pretty awesome. That is I think $10 on there, or it's in some of the tiers. And then the really cool one that I have is the statue. So this statue, it is like it's over a pound in weight. I have the first one. He's willing to make 5 or 6 depending on how it goes, but it is handmade, and he does some licensing stuff for Disney. So it's legit. It's hand painted. It's hand sculpted. I don't know exactly, but I'm pretty sure it's clay. But the whole thing, I mean, it's over 6 inches, and there's even some plastic pieces that he added, like for the ears. That's actually a plastic piece, and there's like hardwired, like hardened wires to like mimic the actual wires from the bot. And yeah, it's pretty awesome. I've sold I think one so far, but yeah, and I have all the packaging that he shipped around the world to get to me, so I'll be shipping it the exact same way he sent it to me, so I know it's going to be safe. He literally cut out the way to package it so it doesn't move or anything. I mean, he does this for a living,
Yeah.
for Disney and everything, so he clearly knows what he's doing. So I'll just utilize what he has. But yeah, those are my favorite things. That and I've got I've got the first time I'm trying a coloring book. Because his lines are just too perfect. They're exactly what a coloring book should be. So, an adult coloring book of the entire book, black and white. It'll be the least shiny possible I can do as a comic. Um, and yeah, it's gonna be great. I know a couple guys that have done this, and I'm just mimicking what they've done in the past that worked out for them. And yeah, there's plenty of covers. There's the metal covers aren't just metal covers; they're embossed metal covers, which is a new thing that Ready Comics is doing, and I'm really excited about that because it just makes sense for a robot book to be a metal cover
Yeah.
and be standing out, and it's gonna look insane. So I'm excited to get my hands on that for me personally, and I've sold a couple of those because it's just a cool idea. And I made sure I talked to them too about layers because I know it's not going to be a simple process for me to format that. But I've already talked to them before I put it on the Kickstarter to make sure I know what I'm doing, and then I can provide those covers. And metal covers and foils, they always look insane. I've always loved doing those,
Yeah.
and I keep plenty of those for my personal collection. And I tried to sell it at the cons, the other day, and they were selling great. They just pop. So
They're always a
you
cool
know,
collectible to get something like that. And I think it's one of those things of like, they were overdone for a long time, but I think with your comic is like it's very much on point. And like, of course, why wouldn't you have a
yeah,
metal cover? It's a story about a
yeah,
robot. It's
exactly.
absolutely on branding for it. It's perfect.
Yeah, I got more metal stuff and I've got paper stuff. I think that as a selection, like the bookmark is only metal because that just makes sense. The trading card is only metal, all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Absolutely going all in for the branding of it, and it all sounds
yep,
amazing. Like that stuff sounds phenomenal. I love the statue of Recon. The
yeah,
little bust is so cool, and it looks so good. I'm like, that is amazing. I'm like, that's
yeah.
such a
Oh
cool
yeah,
little add-on for it. It's like, so yeah, you've gone all in for this Kickstarter. So folks, if you want to go check out this Kickstarter, Sean's clearly got an amazing amount of stuff there for you, which it's always one of those things when you do a Kickstarter, like how much stuff can you actually do as giveaways and as different tiers, and it's like, you know, it's like it's not always a doable thing, and it's like you've got some really cool stuff there.
Thank you.
Really exciting stuff for it. But I think that's it for in terms of the questions I kind of had for you this evening, Sean. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Anything else you wanted to cover at all that I may have missed?
I mean, just like we said before, is of course this one's going on until March 21st.
Mm-hmm.
I will have number 4 of the Fog Within in June, probably early June. As soon as I get Recon printed and shipped out to backers, I'll be going doing the pre-launch for that more so than I've already done. And yeah, we're gonna continue on. Just check out my Kickstarter page to find out more about us and what we're doing. And I'm everywhere. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I'm on Reddit. I'm on TikTok as much as I can. I'm not good at it, but I'm there. On Blue Sky, that's where we talk normally.
That's where we are connected.
Yeah. So normally what my name is for almost all those is Sean Wood _writer. So if anyone has any questions or wants to know about me or wants to know more about my books, I'm always up for talking. I love talking about my stuff. It's insane to me that people want to see what I've done that comes from my fantasy world in my brain, and I just absolutely love talking about it as much as anybody would listen. So.
That is absolutely awesome. And I will, along with the Kickstarter link, I'll put down the links for all of Sean's socials and everything down below as well. So y'all can just scroll down and go and click on those and go and check out. And like you said, reach out to him if you've got any questions about anything for his upcoming stuff or his projects. And just to keep up to date on his socials for all of these, if you want to keep up to date in these future projects he's talked about, I'm sure he'll be posting regularly about all of them there. So go and check those all out. But for us now, that's it for today. I hope you all have an absolutely amazing week. I hope you've had an amazing day, and thank you for joining us. Sean, thank you for joining us here on the show and spending some time with us, and maybe we'll get you back on with some of the future projects you've got and get to dive into those a little bit more as well.
Yeah, appreciate having me.
But for us, that's it for now. Remember, it is a good week to be a geek. Take care, and we'll see you all next time. Peace.